Good evening, ladies and gentle people. Guess what day it is? Oh, I wouldn't have thought so myself. It's Thursday. It's January 13th, 2011. This is Day 9 Daily number 239. Skipped the daily yesterday because of the fact that I am sick. I'm actually still sick. Interestingly enough, it is my throat that hurts. So I'm just going to talk through this because I have the dedication to you. And also because I'm casting the Root Gaming Warzone tournament tonight, no matter what. So I figured, why not do a daily? And then I'm getting on an airplane tomorrow to go elsewhere and talk. I cannot wait to arrive in San Francisco and be declared patient zero and have an entire mini-series based upon the catastrophe that occurs when I get sick and travel. So, in particular, because we ended up missing yesterday's daily, and I was so sad, we're going to do something extra special tonight. Oh, extra special. It's going to be a Choose Your Own Adventure daily. We're going to be doing some branchings where we're going to let the live viewers decide our fate. We'll talk about that in a moment. Before we do that, we have to do the usual announcements. Fun Day Monday next week. Submit to Monday at day9.tv. A game of you not attacking with any units as Protoss until you are at 3 bases or more. The only way you can attack your opponent before then is with the Warp Prism. Any units warped in off pylons, you may not attack with them until you have 3 bases up and running. Before then, you can warp units into their base. That's great. You can drop units with Warp Prisms into their base. That's great, but that is it. I want to see people do a lot of crazy harassment and aggression with the Warp Prism. That's the whole point of Fun Day Monday, so do it. But of course I said that you can attack after you have 3 bases, because I want you to attack eventually. Because that would be rude. If you had a max army and you're like, shit, I can only warp in 2 Zealots because I'm at 196 food. Good luck, both of you. That would be awesome. And fun, but not something we're going to be doing. Newbie Tuesday, go watch Day 9 Daily 235, where I introduce a pretty simple Zerg vs. Zerg style. Try that out. Show me what you think, some of your issues, some of your successes. Send them to Tuesday at Day 9 TV. We'll take a closer look at that. Now here comes what we're about to see. This is the Choose Your Own Adventure Day 9 Daily. So, we're actually going to bring up this little thing. This is sc2rep.net. I generally prefer sc2rep.com for my replays. But it was not actually functioning particularly well today. And what we're going to do is we're going to pick 3 games from here. 1 Zerg vs. Terran, 1 Protoss vs. Terran, and 1 Protoss vs. Zerg. And then you are going to type in the chat 1 for the first game, 2 for the second, 3 for the third. I haven't announced which one they are yet. Marky, don't you start taking poll results right now. But of course, because this is web television, I can interact with the audience. So let's go ahead and interact with the audience and see what poops out. So, let's go ahead and look at some of the games. I'll be selecting the 3 games. So, for one of the games, I haven't told you which one's which yet. I'm just going to choose this top one of Heyo against Virus Satini, because of the fact that it is a PvT, and I just kind of feel like it. You know, I'm really interested in doing a Moonglade game, because of the fact that, you know what, Moonglade is getting pretty damn good. He's going to the GSL. You know what, let's do this game. It's a little bit longer, so we have 2 long games. So here's our Zerg vs. Terran. This is our this is our Protoss vs. Terran. And of course, scrolling down, the immediate Zerg vs. Protoss that pops out to me is Liquid HuK against NesTea. So here we're about to do the live polling. If you would like the Zerg vs. Terran of Moonglade against Jesse the King, type 1. If you would like Heyo against Satini, type 2. If you would like I Am NesTea vs. Liquid HuK, type 3. And then we're going to be taking all those poll results in real time. Woo! And then we're going to find out which one get the most votes. And Marky, whenever you get that, please message me in Skype. As honestly, whenever there's like polls being taken, the IRC chat looks like the Matrix. It's just like text scrolling up. So this is a good chance for the audience to say, hey, you know what? I want this. This is also a good fun way to say, hey, archive viewers, if you guys don't watch live, you miss out on all the fun. You also miss out on me playing Text Twist, and I have to say, I might be the greatest Text Twist player of all time. I don't know, in terms of useless skills, Text Twist is way up there. I'm way up there, baby. Bam! Blasting it off. I mean, seriously, that game is so awesome. I have an amazing textual prowess with my anagrams. So let's go ahead and get the results from Marky. Looks like people decided to type like crazy, and apparently, How are the results going? Dear Marky, how did the live polling go? For any of you who are unfamiliar with this, the admins, who of course are all volunteer, all totally community members, just like you or me, one of them, Markio, made a nice little poll that managed to get exact percentages of what are the matchups that people wanted were. So, it looks like PVT was the winner. Well, it looks like we're doing a Protoss versus Terran. Is that correct, Marky, or did I get it wrong? Let me know which one won, damn it! I want to know the winner. Okay, the HuK game. Alright, cool. HuK against I am NesTea seems great. You know what? I wasn't surprised that that was going to be the one to win. But of course, it appears that the percentages are actually a lot closer than we'd expect. So I'm going to go ahead and save this game. It has been saved. Wow, what's wrong with my computer? It's like, whoa, you want me to save a whole 118 kilobyte file? You're nuts. Go get Fios if you want to do that shit. I'm like, geez, computer. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. So we're going to go ahead and load on to the previous version of battle.net, which of course is going to make this a little bit unstable, but you know what? I know how to restabilize it. I know how to make sure this bad boy does not crash. Come on, load. Alright, loading a 118 kilobyte file. You're crazy, Day 9. Yes, computer, I do expect you to be able to do these things while live. So now we're going to go ahead and do a pretty standard analysis. There's going to be periods in time where I will happily poll the audience. Now, do you want me to focus on this aspect of the game, or do you want me to focus on that aspect of the game? So, Markio, you better be ready. And, of course, when it begins loading, come on, one time. What is this? This is like a Windows install. It's like, no, just 99% done. Just another minute. Just one more minute. Are you sure? If you want, I can go do something else. No, don't go anywhere. Don't go, just one more, just 25 more seconds. I mean, because I was just going to go get lunch. No, don't go to lunch, just 22. Okay, there we go. Ow, we're finally getting the game loaded. Woo-wee! Was that ever hard? We have Liquid HuK in the right position as the red Protoss. And by the way, I love it when replay sites do this. They sort of infuse, they inject a little bit of chatting. It's not like HuK is actually at his computer and the person's like, good luck, have fun. And HuK's like, welcome to Starcraft2 China Replay, have fun! I mean, HuK is not exactly that kind of dude. So, very, very cool little replay techniques. Also some cool stuff going on at SC2 Replayed with similar junk like that. I love it when people do fun, techie type stuff. So, of course, we're going to go ahead and begin this little replay by looking at the obvious stuff. Now, is anyone noticing something? Is anyone noticing what I'm noticing? That's right. Sound was on. That's right. Aren't you impressed? Aren't you deeply, profoundly impressed that I managed to take care of all of that sound being on this? Of course, HuK goes ahead and scouts in the usual direction. We're going to be doing a pretty typical basic analysis at the start, and then we're going to do, again, some branches. Just some simple A or B type stuff. There is the Overlord from NesTea, now scouting to the bottom left position. And this second Overlord, okay. Now, dearest audience, I think that we should all stop and think about why exactly he would be sending two Overlords this way. Why would he be doing that one? Well, I can tell you that. Just want to give you a little bit of time to think. Why would he be doing that? Okay, and I'm not giving you any more time. Done! Here's what happens. This first Overlord, we can make a lot of sense out of this first one. Overlord A wants to check the closest position by ground to make sure that there's no 2-gate, to make sure that there's no rush coming, so that way he can get away with an early expand. But why this second Overlord this way? A lot of times people will want an Overlord and now he turns it. But a lot of times people will want an Overlord right outside the front of their base, also to do spotting. This is particularly common against bunker rushes, wanting an Overlord at the front so you can spot the SCV building. Also with cannon rushes, you want an Overlord at your front spotting for that probe moving up. Looks like he turned it, but you know what? It is still a damn good justification to send both of those guys the same direction early on. Don't look at people doing weird things and say, I don't do that. People I watch don't do that. Therefore, you should not do that. don't do that, right? Don't think that way. You want to be able to justify these sorts of decisions. So NesTea getting the extractor and the pool down, and we do see, ooh, a Forge Gateway build coming up. Okay, now here is going to come up something a little bit interesting. We are now going to begin doing a branch. Until the 10-minute mark, in this game, we're going to be looking at one player. If you would like us to look at it from HuK's point of view, type 1 in the chat. If you would like us to look at this game from NesTea's point of view, type 2 in the chat. Marky, get ready, go, and tell me which one wins, 1 or 2. Until then, we're just going to be hanging out at the usual speed, seeing HuK doing a little bit of mining. And interestingly, wow, double gassing very, very quickly. It looks like people want NesTea's point of view by far. Alright, cool. So we're a Zerg player at this point in time, and we immediately see this going on. We immediately see this. Now, there's a huge difference between... There's a huge difference between seeing something and going, what do I do now? And then saying, if he does A, do this. If he does B, I'm going to do that. And if he does C, I'm going to do this. In other words, we have 3 different plans. We know we're going to go down one, and we're just waiting for the trigger. And a lot of times, the first instances of you encountering some particular strategy, the first instances, you won't really have a good idea. You won't really know. So, for instance, if you're a Zerg and you've never seen this before, you're probably going to be like, huh, alright, weird, funky. But we can start to think about some things, right? And there's always this idea that I call the imbalances in someone's play, which is basically, what does their build let them do really well, and what does it not let them do really well? Now, you're starting to notice that my face is actually shining. That's because, for some reason, it's like 85 degrees in my room. I'm opening a window. I'm actually going to open this up. Now, because I live in South Central Los Angeles, this means that this not only lets in cold air, but also smog and gunfire. So if you hear that, don't worry about it. It's totally normal. It is as usual as the sun rising and falling in the east and west. Nothing out of the ordinary. Most normal thing in the world to have gunfire, really. So, and helicopters. You'll definitely hear helicopters because they're chasing after the bullets. So, when we see this, I always talk about the imbalances, right? Not in terms of the unfairness and, oh, how I hate it so much. But again, what does this build allow the Protoss to do, and what does it not allow him to do? This allows him to cannon rush me really early on. We saw these Zerglings immediately begin poking around really rapidly. But what does it not allow Protoss to do? It does not allow him to attack, because you know what? If we go to the everyone cam really briefly, we see that the Cybernetics core has just finished. Oh my god, it's only just now finished. That means warp gates are way crazy, ultra duper, duper, duper far behind. But of course, we want to stay on the NesTea cam as much as possible. So basically, fewer units. Fewer units. Definitely not going to be under a lot of pressure early on, so we are going to see that drone coming up. However, something I'm worried about is all the slightly later moments as Zerg. The slightly later. So drones makes a lot of sense right now. If I want to be stronger slightly later, I better make drones so my economy is better at that slightly later point. Come on, computer, don't die on me. It's just a 118 kilobyte replay. Nifty. Alright, great. So we see the Spine Crawler going down. We see this Roach Warren going down as well. Now, why on earth would we be getting a Roach Warren at this point in time? Why would this be the case, right? We're getting a Spine Crawler and Roach Warren. We have the Zergling speed. Well, this to me makes sense because this Forge is +1 attack, most likely, which means that Zealots are going to rip through our Zerglings. Don't really want that for defense. Would prefer something like Spine Crawlers and Roaches, things that don't get battered as much by that little +1. And of course, he scouts. This is a pretty damn key time that he's scouting, right? Right around the 6-minute and 14-second mark. We can say something like right around the 6-minute and 14-second mark. Right around 6 minutes after a little while, we kind of want to be checking for expansions. That's also another use of our Speedling. Speed's good in general for denying scouting, for punishing him. Say he moved out with 1 Zealot and we have 6 Zerglings. Our speed prevents him from retreating. But never forget the importance of just checking the front. And notice how NesTea is going to scout the front. Every time I see a Zerg scouting the front, I immediately say, how does he respond? Again, to me, this is one of those later things. This said, Protoss is going to get good later. This says Protoss is going to get good later. Protoss is not going to be getting good right now. And if we even just go into the full vision, we can see that gateways are only like just now starting. Look at this +1, kind of only just now starting. Interesting, right? Now, I'm not going to comment on HuK's play quite yet because it's actually brilliant. It's actually a great little rearrangement of some typical Protoss ideologies. But really going to stick to the NesTea side. But honestly, if we're thinking about what Protoss is up to at this point in time, we are quite aware of the fact that everything he's doing is sort of like a momentum later. So we're seeing the roaches get built right now, right? We're seeing them get thrown down. What if Zerg scouted that and didn't see a Nexus? What would that mean for us? What would that mean? We scout our opponent, we don't see a Nexus. Well, it means that he probably went for some sort of one base ultra fast +1, could possibly be doing some 4-gate pushing, could possibly be doing all sorts of other good jazz. So we might want to really begin investing in some heavy roach defense, maybe even getting our lair for speed and burrow up, maybe begin producing roaches just like this, right? We want to think about everything that Nexus versus not Nexus means. And we just saw Nexus. So we see 7 roaches popping out right now. Oh, this is actually one thing really cool about replays. We can kind of see everything that's going on right now. And it looks like NesTea suddenly getting a lot of gas and Zerglings. It looks like he's preparing for a big assault. Now, a lot of people will say this dumb phrase, timing push. Now, honestly, I love the phrase timing push. It's great. But a lot of people will say, oh, that's good because it's a timing push. No. It is a good time to attack, so we call it a timing push, but there needs to have been a reason that it was good to attack, right? It's not that, oh, this is a timing push. It's a timing push. Yeah, read it in a book. Timing push, you know. My uncle and his aunt, they do this. It's a timing push, right? Like, you need another reason for it. So we've seen a Forge first, then we saw a Nexus. Probably not going to be a lot of units. So investing in a bunch of roaches for an early push seems pretty reasonable. And, right, he's going to be a little vulnerable now. He's going to be stronger later. We've said that about Protoss. HuK's going to be a little bit stronger later. So I'm going to put on a little bit of pressure now. And I actually want to back up because I swear to you I was going to say this. So this little push seems good as long as we go right back to making a whole bunch of drones. So here's the first encounter. And we're going to see some drones start. Yeah! And look, we even see the layer, long-term oriented, getting more gas geysers, long-term oriented. Hey, look at all those drones being made. Cool. This attack in a cast, everyone would be like, oh my god, oh, HuK, can he defend? Oh no, HuK, he loses the thing. Blah! People would be freaking out. They'd be like totally shitting rainbows of excitement. But really, at this point in time, as a player, as an analyst, we want to know, yeah, he's trying to exploit a vulnerability in his opponent's play, but he's still accounting for the fact that this game is not about the win right now. And he's making drones as a result. If this Nexus were never built, these probably wouldn't be drones being made. It would probably be more roaches being made and more defense. Because if my Protoss buddy is going one base hardcore, why would I be making drones to be stronger later? I need to be strong now to defend against this push. And this is really all the core thought process behind Zerg, is this ebb and flow of when do I make units versus when do I make drones. Because with one larva, you have that binary decision, unit or worker. Alright, cool. So, what happened as a result of that attack? We got to buy ourselves a huge amount of time, Spire coming up. We do see a drone going over here to expand. Obviously, these two things in conjunction make a lot of sense. Fast, mobile units can move around the map quickly. So I want to expand far away from him, because no matter what happens, I can always use my fast units to run to this far away expansion, or use my fast units to counterattack. Overlord's kind of spreading out, getting a little haphazard with them. Always be careful with your Overlord rallies, and a common mishap in Starcraft1 as well as Starcraft2. We're going to go back to the everyone cam in just a moment and look at how perfect Zerg's little timing was here. Look, he battered down our good little Protoss buddy quite a bit, and look at this! 4 Zealots! 3 Stalkers, 2 Sentries, aka not enough to attack, not enough to attack. Good Sentry count allows you to attack, or really good Zealot / Stalker count allows you to attack. And as we see, this little attack by NesTea did a great job pushing him back. I mean, yeah, he's got his expansion up. Yeah, he has like 6 gates and a robo. I mean, HuK did a pretty impressive defense with just 2 cannons there. But you know what? Neat. We got our Expo up. We got all our fancy jazz up. We're making some speed Zerglings. Cool, cool. So we're going to go ahead and continue this game from a both players perspective until it gets a little bit later. And then we're going to do a similar little polling again. And again, the poll will be 1 for HuK's view, 2 for NesTea's view. And HuK doing the usual thing, trying to snipe off overlords. This is a commonly underused tactic. Very, very commonly underused. So I want you to think about, at this point in time, what Zerg's doing. Mass Mutalisk, obviously going to be getting more, because look at that. +1 flyer attack. People don't get +1 flyer attack and get 10 Mutalisks. I want to be conservative with my investment. No, if you're upgrading air, get some air, dude. That's exactly what we see. Yes, Gosu ×2. Now, I think everyone is aware of the following strategy. I'm Zerg, I'm going to make a ton of Mutalisks and expand and take both the islands, and then I'm going to keep making Mutalisks and take more bases and win. I think everyone's seen that sort of mass Mutalisk style. Damaga did it at BlizzCon. Brief interjection. That's so beautiful. Everyone's sort of seen that sort of thing. But notice the way in which NesTea got there. This is why I think it's so important to ask yourself, what is my mid-game strategy? What is my mid-game structure? And then how I get there is what we call style. How NesTea got there is he opened up roaches before even going layer, put on a ton of pressure with roaches and speedlings, and then droned up while expanding and getting the spire, and that once all that attacking was said and done, now he's geared up to do it. You could do it Damaga style, where you expand and get the layer really fast with 6 spine crawlers at the front, ultra defensive, no pressure, but you get the Mutalisks up faster, you can begin harassing with air earlier, and then you can take those islands with Nidus Worms faster. Both of them have the same mid-game structure, mutas and expanding. But both of them got there in different ways, and hence those different styles, right? It's always important, though, that you kind of get why you're doing what you're doing, and why we spent such a good amount of time there talking about, oh, how lovely this little push is. So we're actually going to speed it up, because this is somewhat of a stagnant period. HuK realizes he cannot put any pressure on his opponent. He is now going to be beginning to make a lot of photon cannons. The Mutalisks are coming in, they're beginning to attack this Cybernetics core. Twilight Council not quite done. And this is actually a point in time that I think HuK plays quite brilliantly. At this phase in the game, I would be very nervous as HuK, right? I'm actually intentionally going to go to the HuK cam, right? We are aware that our opponent could be expanding. We know our little Zerg buddy is probably thinking of taking 1 or more bases. As we can see, there is the or more. There's the one. Gearing up to take yet another. Oh my gosh, giant spine crawler defense. Upgrades going on. Mutapack. Working it. More photon cannons going down. This makes me uncomfortable as Protoss, because even if we look at the resource, we see Zerg sprinting quite far ahead. But Protoss is just going to defend for a little bit of time. Ooh, even getting a 7th gateway. It's a lot of gateways out right now. Doing a little bit of blink to pick off some outlying overlords. Never going to be quite bad. Now, we're going to go again and do another poll. From the 15 to the 20-minute mark, we're going to be looking at one of these players' points of view. Again, to show you on the screen. If you would like that player to be HuK, type 1 in the chat. If you'd like it to be NesTea, type 2 in the chat. And then when we hit 15 minutes, Marky will report to me exactly which one we will end up doing. So, Marky, please do end up telling me which one is the optimal choice. And I know you sent me a message at 7:33, but I want a more recent one, damn it. There's the gateway finishing. Yes, here is the Sonic Storm going down. A pretty typical response. Blink Stalkers and Storm. We do see all the non-Blink Stalker units. Oh, this is so important. Being multi-purpose. Using all those extra units to be able to do fancy goodness. Yes, and there's the Blink Stalkers doing their thing. Marky, I need some results! Marky, please assist me. Dude, Marky went AFK. Alright, it's the HuK cam. Alright, as anticipated, people kind of like the flip-flop of the action. So here is something very interesting. There is this big, vague idea I talk about all the time called pressure. That a lot of people talk about all the time called pressure. Here is the best way to think of pressure. He says, throwing his glasses to the side in intellectualism. And drooling. Excuse me. Pressure is the idea of, my opponent can do 10 different things right now. But if I put pressure on him, he can only do 4 things. Because I will kill 6 of them with my pressure if he does not respond appropriately. So for instance, Zerg could make a huge army, he could make a lot of defenses, or he could make a ton of drones. But if I pressure him by attacking with this big force right now, he cannot make drones. Because if he does make a lot of drones, I just kill him. Pressure is about limiting our opponent's options. It's about putting them into a smaller box of possibilities. Very, very important. And yeah, generally pressure causes them to weaken a little bit. If you move out with a force and then pull right back, you've pressured him. Ooh, he's had to sacrifice some drones. Oh, he maybe made some extra defense, and that's not what he would have wanted to do. But I still want you to think of it in terms of this limiting of possibilities. So, with that in mind, let's look at this phase of the game. Bam! Right? Let's look at this point. This is what always makes me very, very uncomfortable because as Protoss, we are not putting any pressure back on the Zerg player, or so I initially thought. We do see these Blink Stalkers are actually quite powerful with that +1 upgrade. There is the +1 armor. For the record, armor is oftentimes preferable against Mutalisks because this bounce that says 10 damage actually goes 10, 3, 1. That's what the 3 bounces do. So if you get the armor, you defend against that 3 times. But yeah, I was deeply fearful of Protoss' situation here because there's no real pressure being put on the opponent. I feel like Zerg gets to do whatever he wants, and as we see, 5th base just now finishing for Zerg, more bases up, more bases up. Yeah, just kind of poking around and going back to the HuK cam. But I want you to note the following. This is what makes it okay. Mutalisks are not the unit ever that ends the game. Rarely ever is it something like, alright, cool, I have a whole bunch of Zerglings and Roaches and Hydralisks, killed his main army, time to wrap things up with some Mutalisks, right? You've never thought that. You think time to wrap things up with some drops, or Nidus Worm, or Broodlords is probably the big one, probably the biggest one. Ultralisks, Cracklings, the Hive Tech, you're never like, Mutas! You just don't do that. Ever. So, the fact that he is building a lot of Mutalisks is going to give him mid-game strength, but over time, he's going to get more and more concerned. Ugh, Blink Stalkers are good against Mutas. Ugh, Templar are good against Mutas. So, in a sense, by defending and getting up an expansion, Protoss is actually putting tremendous pressure on Zerg, because Zerg's really starting to go, oh crap, I don't have a big enough army. This means that Zerg really can't make as many drones, just by the fact that these Stalkers are doing such a good job of defending. Now, at this point in time, a lot of people would want to move out and attack, but again, we're seeing this issue with the mobility. This is another really, I think, essential decision that HuK is making, putting this observer here. He is able to spot things long before they end up arriving, and you know what? Not even going to consider moving out to attack. And again, the non-Blink Stalker units hanging out at the front. Oh, fantastic. You know what? These guys only just hit our +1 armor. These guys do have +1 attack, so it means that it's going to be 3 hits to kill a Zergling, but they're still kind of strong. Templar getting warped in. Whoopsie daisies, accidentally closed the production tab. And they do have the Kaidarn amulet, so we can begin doing some storm. You can even warp in 1 Templar here. Good common rule, the more you're moving out and expanding in the map, the more defense you need in the back of your base. If you're taking base number 4, you might want to make that 5 or 6 cannons in the back of your main instead of 2 or 3. Pretty common. Likewise, if you're on 1 base, don't build 5 cannons in your mineral line because you have 1 base. All your units are there. So just leave them there. Brr. Easy peasy fa-frickin' breezy. And now we're starting to see this little move outness. Oh, here's the Mutalisk harass. And we're seeing extraordinary patience and extraordinary calm by HuK. Okay, we just got Templar We just got a whole bunch of zealots. They don't have charge, but you know what? We have a lot of them, as we see. We have a big number of blink stalkers. I would love to attack here. We even see the creep. We see that it's 5 bases, but you know what? HuK's going to have the patience to just calmly pull back. No big deal. He will just re-blink back up into his own main with these stalkers. He is going to retreat this whole attack that would have been ideal to use as a big counter push. Absolutely no problem with that whatsoever. And as we see, more cannons going up here, more defense going up. This is an amazing, amazing way to deal with this. Not a lot of probes have really been lost here. Not a lot of probes have really been lost here. A lot of probes now are living here. And hey, look, more photon cannons. By the way, just be a little bit careful to put like 1 cannon here, or 1 cannon maybe even here, because these guys will defend against the front, but, you know, Mutalisk picking off your gas is always obnoxious. And there is another nice little blink. And hey, you know what? We're starting to really see, damn, suddenly, with no roaches and no hydras, HuK kind of has like the perfect anti-mutaling mix. Look at this. Stuff's dying like mad. The only thing I would really add is to get +2, because if you can stay ahead and ground, these zealots are just going to rip apart Zerglings. So it's essentially like they don't even have Zerglings at all, and obviously it helps your stalkers as well. But I mean, look at the extraordinary patience that HuK is employing here. Now he's getting the Immortals. Now, why would he be getting Immortals now? Why would he be getting Immortals? Other than the reason of, hey, Immortals are good units. Why? Because, again, our opponent is going to go Mutaling for a long time, but Mutas and Lings aren't finishing units. They don't wrap the game up. Huge numbers of Roaches? Now that's something that we need to begin getting worried about. Storm isn't nearly as good against Roaches. Zealots aren't nearly as good against Roaches. Got to begin throwing in some Immortals into that mix. So it's kind of a good way to think about your transitions, just to sort of say, well, what does that make him do? That's why Mutaling Baneling is so common in Zergris Terran, because I make Mutalisks, so he makes Mutalisks, therefore I make Banelings. But when you watch it, the way it happens is the Zerg player makes Mutalisks, and while Mutalisks are popping out and heading over, he starts making the Baneling nest anyways. He doesn't have to see a whole bunch of Marines. He just needs to know, yeah, that's the response that he is likely going to do. And if he doesn't make a lot of Marines, then my Mutalisks are going to do way better. So it ends up being great. So yeah, if for some reason Zerg still goes Mutaling, that's fine. Immortals, and then Storm, Blink, Zealot against freaking Mutaling, whatever. I guess my Immortal didn't help that much, but I'm winning. Freaking awesome. Frackin' awesome. And of course, look at this other expand. Slowly, calmly expanding. Blinking through the center of the map. Slowly trying to get more vision. Gotcha, yeah. And if we even look at Zerg, right? If we even just kind of briefly... No, we'll do that in 20 seconds. So Protoss is slowly gaining a lot of momentum. Still bummed out. Oh, HuK, how you make me frown with your lack of upgrades. We even see that Zerg is getting way far ahead in terms of the upgrade count. Be a little careful to make sure your Zealots do get in the front if you do not have charge. That will actually help tremendously because these bad boys do a little bit less damage to them. And look at that great use of Storm, getting more Archons up. Archons are amazing against Zerg. So good! Now this is awesome. This is kind of a hilarious amount of spine crawlers. Now I'm actually just going to stay on HuK for one more minute. If you saw this number of spine crawlers, what would you do? What would be your goal? What would you think? Again, I talked about imbalances at the start, not in terms of unfairness, but what are those spine crawlers good at? What are those spine crawlers bad at? Alright, think a little bit. Think a little bit. I'll let you think. I'll read the chat. I'm going to go actually ahead and take some comments from the chat. What would you do? What would you do if you saw that many spine crawlers? People are saying things like Void Rays. They're saying things like Carriers. They're saying things like Immortals. These all make sense, you know. Air units. Spine crawlers cannot hit air units. Immortals. Well, those do a lot of damage to armored and that sort of thing. But I want to make sure that people definitely begin considering the idea of expanding more. Anytime you see... And a lot of times people, like, there's, you know, a good amount of people saying expand and that sort of thing. But, oh yeah, and blink into the main and all these sorts of things. But what I want you to think about is the idea of sidestepping something entirely. If he makes 90 spine crawlers, you know what would be awesome? To never let those spine crawlers be useful all game long. Right? That seems to be very, 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 very reasonable. We just sort of sidestep it, and we're like, all right, cool. I don't care if you do that. Or if someone, I'm trying to think of a really good. Oh yeah, like if someone gets building armor and like puts a planetary fortress at the front of their base. Woo, that's going to be hard to break. Why don't we just expand a bunch and we never have to deal with it? We just completely sidestep. I'm trying to think of an example that doesn't involve the response of expanding. I'm trying to think of one. I'm sure one will float into my head eventually. But again, I have a fever. I'm sidestepping this issue by just claiming that I'm sick. I don't even have to think of an answer for you guys at all. That was so cool. So let's go ahead and come right. Or players who have really good unit mixes doing a lot of counterattacking, this sort of thing. A lot of counterattacking. You're basically saying, all right, you have the perfect army to counter mine, but I'm just not even going to even participate in this. So, of course, HuK is doing a reasonable thing and not attacking with his units. HuK, what are you doing? A little bit of a misclick there, but HuK's doing a reasonable thing of trying to poke at all possible fronts. This is another version of sidestepping. This is defended, alright? Even if we look at the everyman cam. Yeah, there's a lot of spine crawlers there. So I'm just going to not attack it. I'm just going to go right on over here. A lot of damage getting dealt. Be a little bit careful with having your stalkers blink up to a high ground, abandoning everything else. But Archons are, of course, so freaking damn good. And we even see, look at this. So you heard me say, hey, Immortals are a great idea, because you're kind of predicting your opponent to go Roaches. So hell, I'm going to go ahead and get some Immortals, right? That seems like a very reasonable decision. But hey, you know what? He's not going Roaches. I have one Immortal out as HuK. I'm not going to be making that many more. I'm going to be making a lot more Gateway units, because I really want that Zealot, Stalker, Templar mix to be ultra powerful. And again, expanding while attacking, the canonical timing in RTS play. This is great. As long as you have the good unit mix. If you go for like a one base all in, and then you expand behind it, then that's actually shitty, because you just made your attack weaker. But in general, pressure plus expand, I guess, is a better way to state that, considering I made a big deal about pressure. And as usual, more stuff being warped in. Cool, cool. That tremendous patience by HuK in the early phases of the game, it's actually really paying off. It's pretty remarkable how well it's paying off. You don't actually need 2 forges in this matchup. You just need 1 forge constantly chrono boosted. And let us take a break from all strategy to just note mechanics. Look at this hotkey setup. HuK uses a lot of hotkeys. Look at Control Group 1, all the non-Blink Stalkers. Control Group 2, all the Blink Stalkers. Control Group 3, the Templar. A lot of individual control. He's using W for the Warp Gates. He's using 5 for the Robo. He has 0 as all of his Nexuses. He has an Observer at 9. He has this Probe for no reason at 8. But you know what? 7 and 6, they're not being used. Why not have 6 as a Forge? 6, 6. To center the screen, 0, C, click. You can be doing a lot of checking. And then while you're in the midst, oopsie daisies, of spamming, you can be like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, looking at your army. Tap 6. Is it still being chrono boosted? It's not. 6, 6, 0, C, 1, 1. Right back in the game again. Just again, using those hotkeys to solve your problems. And it looks like HuK continuing to rebuild, getting in a good amount of Templar. Uh-oh, it looks like, wow, 23 minutes into the game, what do we see Zerg doing? He's getting a Greater Spire. He has some of those Corruptors out. This means that he's probably going to be getting Broodlords. If he wasn't, that would be actually kind of funny, because these Corruptors can really only kill the Observers. Oh! How treacherous Observers, my goodness. But yeah, you know what? Like, that is one of those finishing units. You're kind of starting to see what I meant earlier by, you know what, Zergling Muta is great as a mid-game mix, but you're kind of praying that you can make the mid-game very, very, very long. And if you're Protoss like HuK, who's just sort of pushing it to the late game, it's going to get weaker, and hence why this Expo is penetrated by this big attack force of HuK. So now, finally, NesTea's kind of comfortable. He's kind of feeling it. I also think a Warp Prism would work well for a couple of reasons. Again, it sidesteps all this defense here. It sidesteps, you know, this sort of junk here. It also reinforces the fact that we have all these gateways. I mean, if you have 11 gateways, you're going to be able to warp in kind of a big army. But the one thing that's a little risky is the fact that there's Mutalisk out on the field. If you warp in, like, a whole bunch of guys, he can take his really mobile army and just run here and pick it off. So I think that that's a very good justification for HuK keeping everything tight and packed together. I would want to think pretty hard about how I would use those thingaruhas, those little guys, those warp prisms. Thingaruha. Yep, the Thingaruha transition from an Immortal Gateway mix to the Thingaruha finisher. And here's the blink directly under the Broodlords. HuK is very bold with blinking underneath Broodlords because that can happen. Did everyone see that? Alright, let's go ahead, and I'm just going to lean back in my chair. If I had a beer, I would probably be putting a lime in it right now. Just going to relax. Okay, let's see how this goes. Let's see how this goes. Yeah. Alright, I'm not even going to move the screen. Alright. Alright, so let's go ahead and slow this down. Why is it okay to run our Stalker thing? I have about 80 reasons why. Yeah, it looks like he went from the 80 Zerglings to 1. He has a Zergling up. Again, you're starting to see what I mean by the Zerglings are not so good in the later stages, but they're very good in the mid-game because they are mobile. You could, again, sidestep the fact that Storm's so good by, like, attacking here, or that sort of thing. But now we're going to see HuK just sort of advance forward. That is like my favorite move of Blink Stalkers, is the sort of, boo, back in Ona! And then letting all the rest of these units forward. Nothing wrong with actually busting through a sunken wall like this. Nothing wrong with it, as long as you have a good mix of units. And the Blink Stalker to be able to take out the Dem Broodlords. What phenomenal play by HuK. And now, the one issue that he's going to have to deal with is the fact that 13 Ultralisks are on the way. How would we deal with this? Well, we're going to go right on back to making Ultras nifty thrifty, and of course, HuK is continuing to expand. Oop, be careful with all that good jazz. We see a Nidus network down, but nothing really actually being constructed from it. Here come all of the Ultralisks. Ultras are okay against Zealots, not amazing. HuK doing the smart thing, just retreating right now. Archon's pretty good against Ultralisks, pretty good. But mainly it's going to be the plus armored units. And oh, ain't this cute. Don't you just love this? And here comes the Storm. Storm is okay against Ultralisks. It's not awful, but I mean it's not amazing. But I mean I'm really starting to feel quite comfortable that HuK is going to be in the winning position in this game because of the fact that this Expo, this one's kind of drying up. But this Expo is real juicy, this one is super juicy, and NesTea is running dry, one juicy, and running dry. So it's turning into a 2 base versus 1 base scenario. If only he had Dark Swarm. Herp, derp, derp. And of course, Blink Stalkers are really good at abusing these slower Ultralisks. I'm going to state a concept that is universally true in all RTS games. Faster, mobile armies are what exploit mistakes best. If for some reason I move out with an army of slow Hydralisks, and I was wrong, it turned out he had more units than I'd assumed. Oh, shit. I can't retreat. His faster units are going to punish me. If I move out with a bunch of... or if my opponent moved out with a really small army of Stalkers, and I had a really big army of Hydralisks, and it turns out the Stalker play was wrong, the faster units can just retreat, right? You can't exploit that mistake with the slow Hydras. Here, NesTea is committing a little bit too long with these Ultralisks, and if he wanted to retreat them all of a sudden, he would not really be able to because the Blink Stalkers are just way faster. And the good old warp in behind cannon play. Very, very strong. The Immortal doing its thing. God, that hits hard. Look at that. It's currently doing 60 damage per shot. Not unlike a Dark Templar, my other favorite unit in the game. I just love Immortals as LCDCs. They're just the sickest units. Look at this. Four kills on that bad boy. Get it done, son. Another Immortal coming up. Yes. Blast. And at this point in the game, what we're really seeing NesTea do, I guess I would call like trying to drill an expansion. Look at him just rallying units. Work, please work. Oh god, please work, please. Zerg now trying to pull back. And this is also a pretty common thing that Zergies do, which is to throw a giant ton of units at one end, And when Protoss is really well defended there, then they move over to this other end, which, as you'll note, has 3 cannons. Even though it's dried up, a lot of tech structures here. Going to be very, very juicy. So, I mean, I would actually say that NesTea waited a little too long to transition out of his Mutalisk Zergling. The Ultralisk would have been absolutely effective regardless. And HuK, we saw, have a lot of patience, and now he's in a situation where he is essentially even with his opponent. You see more storming going on, more Stalkers being flung inward. There are the Archons coming out. God, Archons hit hard. And see you later, Alligator. HuK, still not particularly high on food. His opponent is particularly... No, I didn't hit it. No! I hit the rewind to replay button, which, as you'll note, is T. T always rewinds you back to the end, so you know what? I'm going to just fast forward. You didn't see that. There were no spoilers revealed. There were no spoilers on the screen. So you'll note that HuK was actually quite a ways behind his opponent in food almost all game long, and now suddenly HuK is ahead in food. Not a good sign for the Durg. The Durg. And now we see Zerg saying, you know what? An expansion does sound great. And the expansion goes down. So we're going to go ahead and speed things up a little bit. Zealots, I think, are a highly underrated unit in this matchup because of the fact that they are, in fact, so cheap for the amount of damage they deal and absorb. You can get a lot of them very fast. They're what I call a good reinforcing unit. For instance, if I'm attacking with like 12 Zealots, 18 Stalkers, and some Immortals, the Zealots are going to be dying first, so I'm going to replenish all Zealots, right? Just keep making Zealots. Then I back my Stalkers off, and then I can swing right forward again. They build fast, they're cheap, you can keep the pressure on with them. And if you get charged, which HuK does not have, then they can get to the battle fast. Now, why is HuK attacking the main instead of this? Because this was less defended. Also, there's some vital tech structures. I would call that a bonus, but generally the biggest reason you ever attack one thing is you're just saying this is the easiest thing to kill for me, so I will kill that. And then, of course, the Warp Prism is super effective, because again, we have 11 gateways worth of things. And of course, this is all being killed off. Mutarisks popping out right now, more Blink Stalkers. And then Protoss has what we call the best unit composition known to man. Speeding things up, speeding things up. There is no way that Zerg can win unless he does some amazingness. But even then, oh my gosh, I'm going to try to pick this off. No, you're absolutely not. Get out of my base. I will retake my gas, thank you. Marching onward and forward. La-di-da-di-da-di-da, etc. Holding. I really want this to finish because we want to do questions and then do the Root Gaming Warzone tournament. Oh, feedback on the Queen. Storming on the Mutalists is very good. Oh, as usual, Stalker Storm is very good against Mutalists. HuK, you are so cool. Welcome! Oh, good game. Done! Wow! Wasn't that an awesome daily? Not only was that game good and we learned all sorts of insightful things, but also we got to look at what you wanted to see. We got to look at the replay that you selected. We got to look at each player based upon the time that you selected. Want to do more choose your own adventure stuff in the future. Actually, Marky, I have one more poll before I take questions. If you liked this format, please type 1. If you did not like this format, please type 0. That's what I want. And don't type it until Marky gives you confirmation that he's ready. And then Marky, tell me. I would assume that people liked it. I would assume as much. So let's go ahead and take some questions. BKim93, who I believe I've taken questions from before. Dear Day 9. Well, by the way, BKim93 has very good timing with when he asks questions. Yeah. Says, Dear Day 9, during the 13 Ultralisk push by NesTea, he seemed to have moved towards the 3rd and 4th expansion. Don't you think it would have been a better idea for NesTea to push towards the main and natural since they had all the unit-producing structures? It's close. That's actually one of the hardest questions to answer. I would actually have to rewatch that part 5 or 6 times to really get a definitive answer. And I say that not to try to cop out, but to emphasize the idea that knowing when and where to attack is actually an extremely tough decision when your opponent is kind of in the late macro stages. What I would most prefer is drilling one base and then drilling the other, and then drilling one and then drilling the other, such as sending a whole bunch of units to the 3rd and 4th expansions, and then Nidus worming the main, and then pulling everything back, and then hitting the main. And right when that main is about to be defended, Nidus worming the other base. This is something that's rarely seen in Starcraft2 that happens all the time in late-game ZvP and Starcraft1. And I know you might think they're different games, but not in that sense. I mean, Protoss needs to keep his army in one solid ball. Zerg can then exploit this by the fact that Zerg units are faster. Again, sidestepping the ball entirely. Many Day 9 quotables happen. Yes, indeed. Alright, gonna go ahead and take some more questions. Oh, here's a great question by Mr. Bojangles217 who says, Dear Day J, that's me. I always hear you say to have a good goal when playing, but I don't know what a good goal sounds like, and I oftentimes feel like my goals just suck. How do I make a goal that wins games? So, first of all, let's pick a matchup, right? Let's pick Zerg vs. Protoss. I have no idea what race Mr. Bojangles217 plays, but let's just say it's ZvP. And let's pick a map. This is, again, why it's very useful to downvote maps, so you can restrict the amount of stuff you're practicing on. What I generally like to do, if I'm so totally lost, is I will get like 10 or 15 replays of just that matchup on a map. Like 15 Zerg vs. Protosses on Lost Temple. Or maybe even like a bunch on Lost Temple and Metalopolis. Two maps that I think I will play kind of similarly on. And then what I'm going to do is watch them really, really fast. Because I want to find out themes and patterns that are obvious sorts of things. So, for instance, I recently watched a bunch of Sen Zerg vs. Protosses, and you know what? I saw him getting, right around the time that he's almost getting 3 bases up and running, sometimes when he has 2 bases really up and running, he just gets a ton of roaches and starts attacking a lot, then while he is teching, right? That's what he's doing, attacking a lot, and teching and sneaking in drones here and there. So I'm going to say my mid-game goal is to get a whole bunch of roaches and attack him after I get 3 bases up. Done! Simple. Keep it simple. In this NesTea game, he is going to be going Mutalisk Zergling in the mid-game, and then taking a lot of bases and continuing to go Mutalisk Zergling. Done. That's all. That's it. And then, once you have this goal for the mid-game, create a goal for the late game. So Zerg could say something like, I want to eventually get Ultralisks. I want to eventually have 6 bases in the islands. Simple goals. And we can, if we want to get really complicated, we can say something like, I will be upgrading melee and carapace so that when I get Ultralisks, they're really strong. Still pretty damn simple. You want to keep it very, very confined that way. And then once you've done that, practice the hell out of it, play a lot of different openings, see what dumps into your goal the easiest, and now you have a style and a build order. Cool. So again, that process is watch a whole bunch of people, pick something you like doing, break it down into one big broad stroke statement for the mid-game, maybe get some late-game goals, and then practice. Yes! Taking one more question, and then we're going to be doing the Root Gaming Warzone 3rd, 4th place match. Yes. Hey, 80% of the people like the format today. So, let's see here. Let us divine. I'm going to take this question from Kenaro9095. Dear Day 9, the endgame for Zerg seems way too hard to not starve to death. Not exactly a question, just more of an observation, but that is kind of a factor of a lot of the ways that people will end up playing. Because you may have heard me say this before, and this shocks a lot of people, but StarCraft is not necessarily about being the most efficient player. It is actually quite inefficient to go Zergling Mutalisk. Those units just get they get killed easily, right? They just get murdered so badly by storms, by blink stalkers, everything. They just get killed really easily. It's not efficient. You don't want to play in a straight-up fight. However, the mobility allows you to get 6 bases really easily. Now all that complete total waste I had by the fact that everything gets murdered so easily, it's okay because I make up for it by having 6 bases against 2 or 3. And then your goal is to try to get Broodlords or Ultralisks or some sort of game ender there so you can end the freaking game. This is a key misstep that I think a lot of players make, is that they try a little bit hard to stay to the obvious logical choices, like, oh, he's getting a lot of gateway units, therefore I should get Roaches and Hydras because those deal with gateway units well. You can do that, but now you can't expand as much anymore. Your army is more efficient, but overall you're not getting as good of an income as you would with Mutaling. Those are the things that are important to note. So in this game, the reason Zerg got starved out is that his whole goal was to get 6 bases up and running and then kill HuK, but he just couldn't quite kill HuK. So eventually HuK just held on longer because HuK was playing more efficient. Not better, but he was playing efficiently. So he was able to keep his bases running longer. That's not necessarily better or worse. It is just a stylistic choice. Because there's plenty of games where HuK plays and the Zerg gets 6 bases up and running and then just wins. So without any further ado, that's going to wrap up today's Day 9 Daily. Please, if you'd be so kind, go to shortyawards.com and vote for me in a Shorty Award in Gaming using your Twitter account. And then follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/day9tv. Yay! Because then they fly me to New York and they give me a piece of glass that says Shorty Award. And I want that. Thank you. Without any further ado, we're going to be going into the Root Gaming Warzone in about 23 minutes. So, see you then. Bye, guys.